at number 10, we have the Super Mario Shadow People. Super Mario Galaxy is a game known for pure fun, bright colours, familiar faces, and a whole lot of bouncing around on little stars. It's also gained a reputation for featuring the Shadow People. At the beginning of the Shiverburn Galaxy level, strange shadowy figures can be seen at the top of the cliff in the background. Now at first, many people brushed this off as just people's imagination running wild. Then someone took the initiative to look through the game files. They found that the name of the background image is called Hell Valley Sky Tree. Who said anything about Hell Valley? The internet exploded with conversation about this. Who were these shadow people, always watching you, even though you can never get any closer to them, and nobody even mentions them in the game? Some people have tried to explain these away as just trees, but others say, I ain't seen no tree that looks like that. It's one of those things where if Nintendo actually acknowledged it, it may not be so creepy, but the fact that they have still refused to means people are left wondering who the shadow people of Hell Valley are. Next up at number 9 now, we have the Hall of Tortured Souls. This is a well-known Easter egg that was hidden in the coding of Windows 95. Deep in the software there is a hidden game there. Nobody knows who found it first, but this is how you find it. To enter the game, go to Microsoft Excel 95, open a new blank Excel worksheet, go down to the 95th row and select the whole row. Tab over to column B, go to Help/About, tap and hold Ctrl Alt and Shift, and then click the tech support button. Then the game will appear. It's called Hall of Tortured Souls. Players use their arrow keys to move in 8 different directions. Eventually you will find a staircase. The walls are surrounded by text with the names of the creators on. On the next level there is a small room with red walls. Again, the names of the creators will flash up on the screen. Go down a bit and enter the room where you were before. Type the magic word XLKFA. Another room will open where you have to follow zigzagging black paths. Eventually you will find the end of the game. A picture of the developers of the software. The whole thing is a little bit unnerving. Even though the game has been discovered and completed at this point, many people are creeped out by its name. Hall of Tortured Souls. They feel there may be something much darker hidden deeper in that game. Maybe one of you guys will be the one to find it. Next up at number 8 now, we have Polybius. Some call this the most dangerous video game ever made. The story begins in Portland, 1981. A local arcade hall was attracting more visitors than normal. All the games were busy, but only one had a long line of people wanting to play it. A new game, Polybius. The players couldn't stop playing it. When they were finally forced off it, they began to act strangely. They said they felt nauseous, stressed, and had terrifying nightmares. Others had seizures. There were even reports of all the madness forcing people to suicide. The one common thing that everyone felt was that they were unable to control their own thoughts anymore. Then people began to notice that the game was being serviced a lot more than usual. Other games might get checked by technicians maybe once a month, but Polybius was being checked every single week. Men in black suits would come, record its data, and then leave. They would never take the coins and seemed to have no interest in the money it had made. After a while of this, the mysterious arcade game vanished as soon as it arrived, taken by the very same men in suits. People believed that the men and the machine were from the CIA, that it was all part of a mind control program, an experiment that was sending subliminal messages to players. So, was there any truth to this? Well, that's the faith you kind of need to put into the story. The story has been repeated and spread for almost 40 years now, but it's very hard to verify as the arcade machine and the men who monitored it disappeared without a trace. If this program has continued to modern times though, perhaps they've just got better at hiding their experiments in your games. Next up at number 7 now, we have the ghost of GTA 5. It's been almost 5 years now since GTA 5 was released, and by now it seems that players really have discovered every last secret and Easter egg the game has been hiding. One of them does stick out as a lot more creepy than others though. Near the peak of Mount Gordo there is a flat rock on the ground which bears the word Jock written in blood. Between 11 PM and midnight in the game, the player can see the ghost of a woman appear near the rock with long black hair and wearing a white dress. She is said to be the ghost of Jolene Cranley Evans. She was the wife of Jock Cranley, a famous stunt double in the game from years ago. The story goes that she didn't want to move from their home near Mount Gordo to the city of Los Santos so that Jock could pursue his stunt double career. He took her up for a walk on the mountain and pushed her off, where she fell to her death. He was arrested but released due to lack of evidence. Now she haunts the mountain in the game. If players go to a nearby campsite, they can hear screaming or an incomprehensible whispering sound which, if played backwards, says, "Let's see your shot." The final creepy thing is that if you try to approach this ghost, she will vanish straight into the night. Next up at number 6 now we have Luigi is dead. There's something you Luigi fans never want to hear. However, there are clues in some Super Mario games that he really is. In Luigi's Mansion, during the blackout that happens after the boss battle of Area 3, Luigi journeys to the telephone room and answers 2 calls. During these calls, while Luigi is holding the phone to his ear, the player must wait until there is a lightning flash, and then they will see that Luigi's shadow has been twisted into a way that looks like he's been hanged. Now, some people say this shadow is the metaphorical shadow of a much darker game that was actually meant to be released, or that they just forgot to take this part out. Others say this was intentional and a nod from the developers to the fact that Luigi has been dead for many years now. He killed himself after always having to live in the shadow of his more popular and famous brother. Nintendo says it's just a glitch, but others say that's just a cover-up, and as much as Nintendo fans don't want to hear it, Luigi is dead. Next up at number 5 now we have Lavender Town. Those of you that have played the original Pokemon games on Game Boy may already be familiar with how creepy the Lavender Town theme music is. I mean, the whole town is based around dead Pokemon. That's kind of the point, but there is a story that goes way deeper and darker than you know. Following the release of Pokemon Red and Green, there were a number of reported child suicides in Japan. When players got to Lavender Town, the music had a strange effect on them. Let's hear it really quick as a reminder. People said the song was created with a hidden code in it that would drive children to kill themselves. Subliminal code used very high frequencies, ones that only young kids can hear and not adults. This became known as Lavender Town Syndrome. Supposedly, 200 children committed suicide in Japan because of this, and many more developed illnesses and afflictions. The children who committed suicide usually did so by hanging or jumping from heights. Those who did not succumb to the suicidal pull still complained of severe headaches after listening to the Lavender Town theme. According to the legend, the developers in Japan were forced to fix the song's frequency to be at a lower frequency before international release. That's the safe version that you and I and many other people have heard. They say the real version can still be found out there, waiting for its next victim. Moving on to number 4 now, we have the Xbox voices. When the Xbox was first released in 2001, it was praised for its power and cutting-edge technology. Microsoft didn't really want to waste all of that when the console wasn't being used, and so they added some ambient noises which played while it was idle. These noises started out normal at first but quickly got very strange. People said it kind of sounded like the console was channeling voices from the dead. Naturally, people wanted answers from Microsoft. Was this some sort of subliminal messaging? Was it supposed to influence dreams when players fall asleep with the console on in their room? Well, the company said it wasn't actually even their own music. It was public domain audio from NASA transmissions from the Apollo missions. For those of you that don't know, these were the missions that went to the moon. If you think you can handle it, I'd recommend listening to the whole thing. People report hearing robotic voices, whispers, and even Halloween music. Either people are seriously imagining things, or Microsoft and NASA have some explaining to do. Next up, number 3 now, we have Kill Switch. This game is just straight up creepy, if it does actually exist. You see, back in 1989, this game was released in which the player had the choice of playing either a Ghast or a Porto. It was nearly impossible to play as Ghast because he was invisible, which meant that almost everyone chose Porto. Items you found appeared at the bottom of the screen. You find pieces of a tape recorder and could listen to events that transformed the mine you're in into the hell that it became. The game was eerie, hollow, empty, confusing, and just creepy all round. But the weirdest part is yet to come. The story goes that if anyone does complete the game, Kill Switch is designed to self-terminate. It deletes all traces of itself on the person's computer like it was never there at all. This is bad news because only a reported 5,000 copies were ever made. Apparently this continued to happen until every last copy was wiped and the company who made the game vanished from existence. A small community of people are trying to replicate the game based on the stories they've heard, but it's slow work and many people feel it's not worth the trouble it could ultimately bring. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Herobrine. Any of you guys who have played Minecraft will surely have heard of this character. When you first play the game, you'll have the ordinary standard skin. Now one day, early in the game's history, a player said he spawned in a brand new single player world. He was playing the game as normal, mining and building, when he saw something moving amongst the dense fog. He thought it was a cow and so chased it. It wasn't though. Staring back at him was a character that had the default skin, but his eyes were empty. There was no name above his head. He double checked to make sure he wasn't actually in a multiplayer server, and he wasn't. The character quickly ran off and disappeared. As the game went on, strange things kept happening. Parts of the game looked like someone had actually been there before, even though this was single player. Every once in a while he claimed to see the strange doppelganger watching him from the fog. After posting this story to the forums, he received a message from a user called Herobrine. It simply said, "Stop." Eventually he and some others found that Herobrine was the name of a Swedish player, possibly the brother of Notch, who is the creator of Minecraft. They asked Notch if he had a brother. He replied, "I did, but he is no longer with us." Thus, the legend was spawned of the creator's dead brother living on in the game's coding, watching players, watching every player, unaware of the afterlife he's ended up in. And finally, number 1 now guys, we have Berserk. This was a very popular arcade game, first released back in 1980 and was a great success and highly addictive. However, it will always be remembered as the first game to be linked to the deaths of some of its players, 3 to be precise. The first was said to be Jeff Daly. He allegedly entered his initials twice in the Berserk machine's top 10 players list before dying of a heart attack. His score was 16,660. People say if you remove the binary numbers of 1 and 0, you get 666. The next victim was Jeff's friend, a guy called Peter Bukowski. Now according to the arcade owner where this machine was housed, Peter arrived and began playing Berserk at 8:30 p.m. He was a top student who hoped to become a doctor one day. He was also very good at arcade games. After 50 minutes of playing, he posted his initials next to 2 high scores on the leaderboard. He then took 4 steps away, put a quarter into a different game, and then collapsed dead from a heart attack. The third death was said to happen to a guy who got into a fight over a quarter that was meant to be put into the Berserk machine. He was stabbed to death. Of course, people began to connect the dots and became convinced that this arcade machine had something to do with all the deaths. It's rare that a kid dies during or just after playing any video game, but 3 all connected to the same one. You can see why the legend of Berserk has persisted.
Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Three Kings Cross. Three Kings Cross is an interesting game to say the least. It has been described as a meditation ritual, a conduit to the unknown, or perhaps an invitation to the supernatural. Whatever you need it to be. This game originated on the No Sleep Reddit in 2012, but even the person who posted it wrote with it, "Please don't actually try this. This creepy game involves 1 principal player and 1 partner, and it's integral that the player fully trusts the partner. It is also said that this game should not be attempted if either person is going through any kind of hard or stressful time in life, and definitely do not attempt under the influence. Basically, after a very specific setup that involves chairs, mirrors, setting your phone's alarm to 3:30, and holding an object of sentimental value. Once 3:30 rolls around, you get into your throne that you would have all set up. Basically, once you're in the throne with a candle lit, you can't look at any of the mirrors, but it is here where 1 mirror will hold the queen and 1 mirror will hold the fool, but you may not know which one is which. You can proceed to ask them questions and you may or may not receive answers, and even if you do, depending on if it's the queen or the fool, you may just be receiving lies. You may remain here until 4:34 AM, which is when your partner should call your name to pull you out of the game. I'm not gonna lie, this game sounds way too eerie for me to even think about trying to play it. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Elevator game. This game is said to have originated in Korea, and all you need for it is yourself and an empty elevator in a building that has at least 10 floors. Here's the rules. Enter the elevator alone. Do not get out on any of the floors. If any outsiders get on the elevator, you'll need to start over. Proceed to the 4th floor. Descend to the 2nd floor. Proceed to the 6th floor. Return to the 2nd floor. Ascend to the 10th floor, return to the 5th floor. Here on the 5th floor is when people start experiencing strange things. Once on the 5th floor, people usually say is when they begin encountering a young woman. It's important not to look at or interact with her. It's normal for her to try and contact or try to speak with you, but the game states to ignore her. After this, you press the button to the 1st floor and one of 2 things will happen. 1. If the elevator goes down to the first floor, then you need to exit immediately and silently and do not look back. Or 2. If the elevator goes up, this means that you've been allowed into the other world. You'll reach the 10th floor and things may look different. No one else will be on the floor. Sometimes the power is out. Here on the 10th floor you may encounter the young woman again, and if you choose to exit the elevator, it is recommended that you continue to ignore her. It is said that if at any point you interact with this young woman, she will follow you home once you leave the elevator, and I think it goes without saying that most people don't want to bring home any otherworldly being with them. I think I might just skip the elevator game and take the stairs. In our number 8 spot today we have Ouija boards. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Ouija boards are not to be messed with. Why can't we just leave spirits and otherworldly beings alone? You know, Ouija boards, if you haven't heard of them before, are boards that are printed with letters and numbers and sometimes other signs or a simple yes or no. Users of the Ouija board place their hands on a planchette or pointer, and as they contact otherworldly beings, you can ask questions, and then whatever you've contacted is supposed to take hold of the planchette and either answer your questions with the signs labeled on the board or spell out the answers if the signs aren't enough. Basically, it's like iMessage, but for demons. Need I say more? There have been countless stories of people using Ouija boards in extremely haunted places, or some people not closing their Ouija board sessions properly and then having to face the consequences of those decisions. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it's probably best to just play this one on the safe side and leave the ghosts alone. In our number 7 spot today we have Randonautica. Randonautica is an app that absolutely blew up on TikTok last year. The app uses a quantum number generator to give you some coordinates that are in your area so that you can go and explore, which would make it seem like some sort of fun adventure game that shows you new places you haven't seen yet, but instead there have just been countless stories of people encountering some pretty creepy stuff while out randonauting. People have had paranormal experiences, many of which have been well documented on social media, while others have found objects that are most definitely cursed. A group of teenagers even made the gruesome discovery of a suitcase which ended up containing 2 bodies while randonauting, which is absolutely insane. Even though the coordinates are supposed to be random, it always seems to lead to something scary and sinister. I'm not saying that something weird is going on here, I'm just saying this app and game might be a good one to stay the heck away from. In our number 6 spot today we have the Triple Mirror game. I had never heard of the Triple Mirror game before I started making this list, and honestly I'm pretty glad about that. So basically for this game you mostly just need a lot of mirrors. Well, actually you need 3 mirrors, no less. You'll also need a big white unscented candle. The unscented part is preferred because I heard ghosts don't like eucalyptus. So anyway, you light the candle and put it on the floor, and then you configure all of the mirrors in such a way that they reflect the image of the room's door in all 3 of the mirrors. It's not an easy setup for this spooky game, but that really is the hardest part. Once you get all the mirrors meticulously placed in the correct way, it is said you'll be able to see all of the ghosts that inhabit your room only through the 3rd mirror. Sometimes these ghosts will only be seen in flashes, and I'm not sure if that's more or less creepy. I'm not gonna lie, this game doesn't sound fun. In our number 5 spot today we have Charlie Charlie. Charlie Charlie went viral a few years ago as it quickly became a social media challenge that people wanted to try out. The game consists of crossing 2 pencils over one another on top of a piece of paper marked with yes or no. From there you can ask Charlie questions, and apparently the top pencil will move depending on the answer to your question. Who is answering your questions? Well, apparently Charlie, who is said to actually be a demon. Okay, summoning demons wasn't exactly high on my list of fun games to play, but to each their own, I suppose. In our number 4 spot today we have Bloody Mary. This one is pretty famous, so there's a good chance you've heard of it already. This game, which in North America we call Bloody Mary, exists in multiple countries around the world, all with slightly different backstories depending on the location, but with relatively the same rules and outcome. So realistically this game can be played in any indoor room, but because of the fact that it requires a total blackout with no light leaking in, the most popular place to play the game is in the bathroom. Wait until nightfall and then enter the room with the necessary supplies. With a candle lit, look into the mirror and continue repeatedly chanting the name Bloody Mary until you reach the magic number 13. From here, people have explained that they have seen the apparition of Bloody Mary screaming at them, cursing at them, sometimes even going as far as to harm people, steal their soul, drink their blood, or even scratch their eyes out. I don't know, you guys. There's just some things you don't risk. Whether I believe in it or not, why would I try and find out? In our number 3 spot today, we have the Midnight Game. This game is said to have originated from an old pagan ritual that was used to punish those who broke the law. Basically, you write your full name out on a piece of paper and place it in front of a wooden door. Then, you light a candle and set it on the piece of paper and wait until just before midnight, and then knock on the door 22 times so that the last knock perfectly lines up with the first stroke of midnight. If you complete this, it is said that you will have unleashed the Midnight Man. Who is the Midnight Man? Well, apparently he's some sort of supernatural creature that is now hunting you for the next 3 hours. From the time he is unleashed until 3:33 a.m., you have to walk around with your candle and try not to get caught. If the candle goes out, that means he's close. If you can't get the candle relit, it's advised that you surround yourself with salt. If you don't act quick enough and the Midnight Man catches you, well, no one knows exactly what happens because no one's still around to tell the tale. In our number 2 spot today, we have Charlotte's Mirror. What is up with ghosts and mirrors, you guys? This game involves the conjuring of a spirit of a 7-year-old girl whose mother was burned at the stake in the 15th century after being accused of witchcraft. All you need to play this game is a dark room, a mirror, and something that Charlotte might like a toy. Put the toy on the floor, and while only looking at the reflection of it in the mirror, wait to see if Charlotte approves. If she does, she'll reward you by answering any questions you may have, but the trouble comes if you didn't bring her a gift she likes. It is said that Charlotte especially hates candles, so it's also recommended you don't bring one of those. Rumor has it she's not a ghost you want to mess with. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Closet Game. This is like 7 Minutes in Heaven, except the exact opposite of that. For this game, around midnight, you step into a dark closet and close the door. You wait for 2 minutes and then hold out an unlit match. From here, you need to chant, "Show me the light or leave me in the darkness." If you hear voices whispering behind you, fight the instinct to run as fast as you can and instead light the match right away. Don't let it go out though. If you do, that's when the demon will grab you and take you to wherever he came from, and that is not a place you want to go. As long as the match is lit, it acts as your protection. You can listen to what the whispers have to say for as long as you like, and when you're ready, slowly, without letting the match go out, reach for the door and leave the closet.
Charlie Charlie. So the Charlie Charlie challenge is adapted from a Spanish paper and pencil game called Juego de la Persia, the pencil game. I probably murdered that Spanish. Basically, the premise of the game is to balance pencils on top of one another with no and yes written in the squares. Teenagers then call upon an alleged Mexican demon called Charlie. Players of the game say something like, "Charlie, Charlie, are you here?" The pencil then moves and people freak out. Why do the pencils move? Clearly because a demon has been summoned, not because of friction and gravity. There are a lot of videos of people playing the Charlie Charlie game, and it almost always ends with screaming and running. Many YouTubers find themselves doing the challenge and they've garnered millions of views. Is it real? Well, according to Mexican historians, there is no demon called Charlie. But I don't know, any game that encourages summoning a demon makes me feel pretty sketchy. Coming in at number 9, we have Sad Satan. Sad Satan is allegedly a cursed video game found on the dark web. YouTube channel Obscure Horror Corner lived up to their name when they shared a scary screenplay of the game on their YouTube channel, and honestly, it looks really intense. To be honest, it also sounds pretty intense, and I don't like that. The player is walking down a dark alley and horrible radio signals start coming through. During the gameplay, from time to time, a blank screen would appear with strange markings. Reddit users decoded the font and said that it was saying things like "kill, kill, kill," and "I can track you." Finally, at the end of the game, it cuts to a black screen in which the phrase "suffering doesn't end" appears. Great! So basically, this doesn't sound too good to me. I'll probably give playing this one a solid miss. Coming in at number 8, we have the Three Kings. I first heard about the Three Kings when I investigated the No Sleep subreddit, and apparently it's actually a very popular game these days. To be honest, popular or not, I don't like the sound of it. No, no, no. What you need to play the game is a large room, preferably a basement with no light source. You're supposed to set up this space with 2 full-length mirrors, 3 chairs, and an item from your childhood. Once you're done with the setup, you're supposed to go to bed and set your alarm for 3:30 AM. At exactly 3:30, you're supposed to then get up. Now, you can only play if when you go back to the large room you prepared, nothing has changed. If anything has moved or changed, this is a warning not to play that evening. You must sit in one of the 3 chairs at exactly 3:33 AM with a candle lit. Once seated, you've got to look straight ahead into the darkness and never look into the mirrors or the candle. At this point, you should see or hear a presence. Some people say that you'll begin to have a conversation with a king, a queen, or a fool. It's complicated, but apparently when playing this game it is possible to get stuck in an alternate dimension, because sure. Coming into number 7, we have Midnight Man. According to a creepypasta I read, the Midnight Man game dates back to an old pagan ritual and essentially is a game to summon a spirit. The game is played by a person writing their name on a piece of paper, pricking their finger to produce a small drop of blood on the paper, lighting a candle and taping the paper with your name on it to a wooden door. Now, the door has to be wooden. Timing is important in this game. You have to knock on the door 22 times, with the last knock coming at the stroke of midnight. The person then opens the door, blows out the candle, closes the door and relights the candle quickly. This apparently means that the Midnight Man is now in your house. Your job is to then avoid being caught by the Midnight Man, who will scare you until 3:33 AM. Sounds like all of the fun I'd rather not be having. Coming in at number 6, we have Polybius. Polybius is a legendary arcade game and nobody knows if stories about it are true or simply the stuff of gaming urban legend. The story seems to have emerged in the year 2000 in Portland, Oregon, and suggests some kind of government conspiracy. Basically, the story goes that a black box arcade game started showing up in arcades across the city. Now, the game didn't have any branding, it was simply black and mysterious, but people were intrigued and played it anyway. The game seemed to involve geometric patterns and eye-wateringly bright, colourful shapes. It seemed like the game was hypnotizing people, making them sick, or in some cases, even making them disappear. After gamers played, men in black suits were seen servicing the machine, which led to rumours that it was part of the CIA's MK Ultra mind control pursuits. Storytellers named the game Polybius after a Greek historian who said that you should never report what you can't verify. Whether or not the story is true, it has become part of pop culture, with The Simpsons placing a Polybius machine in the background of a scene in 2006. Would you guys play it? Let me know. Coming in at number 5, we have Pokemon's Lavender Town. Pokemon has a lot of wildly popular games, but did you know that part of Pokemon Red and Green might be cursed? The music that plays in Lavender Town in the game not only matches the weirdly trippy purple graphics, but allegedly sparked an alarming number of child suicides in Japan. The music is undoubtedly spooky. Horror blog Bloody Disgusting hailed it as one of the most terrifying childhood memories for gamers. In terms of the music, the chords are very jarring, but I have to say, it is weirdly calm. Whatever is going on, like even if it's cursed or not, I don't really want to listen to that music for very long. It kind of gets inside your brain. According to a creepypasta that surfaced in 2010, the music compelled over 100 Japanese children to kill themselves, leaving others with weird behavioural outbursts. Others suffered simple things like nosebleeds and headaches. Either way, I don't like it. This whole phenomenon became known as Lavender Town Syndrome. So the legend may have some scientific truth. Apparently the high-pitched binaural beats tapped into the brains of children in a way that could affect their moods. It seems that Pokemon themselves were even worried. They've re-recorded the music for the 2017 Pokemon Go Halloween special, so maybe Pokemon bosses were trying to lift the curse, or maybe they fancied something new. I love a good board game, but you would not catch me playing with an Ouija board anytime soon. Now that's coming in at number 4. Ouija boards are totally messed up. I'm sure you know what they are, but for those of you that don't, it's a board with letters of the alphabet on it, as well as yes and no in the top corners, numbers, the words goodbye, and assorted symbols and graphics surrounding the board. Now the board is used to communicate with spirits, although it originated as an American parlor game. Some spiritual believers will tell you that playing with an Ouija board to contact the dead can lead to demonic possessions, which doesn't sound ideal. Ooh, maybe we should do the top 10 scary Ouija board stories. I'm so down for that. Coming into number 3, we have a classic game. We've got Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is a quintessential game from our childhoods, but that doesn't mean I'd recommend playing it ever. Is it kids just freaking each other out, or is it a cursed game? Bloody Mary is said to appear in a mirror when her name is chanted. Now back in old folklore, the ritual was used to show a woman a glimpse of their future husband's face, although if they saw the Grim Reaper instead of their husband, it would mean that they would likely die before they got the chance to marry. In modern times, the legend goes that if you summon Bloody Mary, she will scratch out your eyes, steal your soul, drink your blood, or at the very least scream at you. There is a similar game legend called Hanako-san in Japan. Speaking of Japan, next up you should never play Hitori Kakurunbo. This is coming in at number 2, and this is basically a Japanese hide and seek game, but you play it alone, or alone with a spirit. So what you need to play this game is a stuffed animal with arms and legs. It has to have a name, for example, Twinkle. Sadly, you cut Twinkle open, removing all of the stuffing and replacing it with rice and some fingernail clippings. Yum. You then sew up Twinkle back again, wrapping the leftover thread around the toy's body. You then put the stuffed toy in the bath and say, for the first game, I am going to be it. Then you close your eyes, count to 10, then you're supposed to stab the toy and say I won. Still with me? You then announce that the toy is going to be it next, and you go and hide. For some reason, it's very important that you hide with a glass of salt water, and if you feel scared, you have to put some of that salt water in your mouth. When the game is over and the toy hasn't found you in an hour or over, you go back, spit the salt water on the toy and burn it. Sounds like a lot of hassle to me, and to be honest, I'd rather play Catan. Finally, coming into number 1, I would never ever recommend going anywhere near this game, we have Blue Whale. Blue Whale is an awful social media game that seemed to originate in 2016 and encourages players to induce self-harm and later commit suicide, which horrendous. This so-called game takes place over 50 days, with each day a new challenge. The game was linked to 130 teenage deaths in Russia alone, with one girl, 15-year-old Yulia Konstantinov, posting a picture of a blue whale on her Instagram before jumping to her death. This spate of deaths were not just in Russia alone. Countries across the world have reported deaths of young ones as a result of the sick game. So guys, that was the top 10 cursed games you should never play. Have any of you ever played one of these games? I certainly hope not. Please don't, ever. Stick to what you love, like chess, or The Sims, or even Fortnite if that's your jam. Games without demons.